The rain came down hard, pounding the tin roof of the little white church like it wanted to break through. Daniel Hayes sat straight-backed in the front pew, his jaw clenched so tight his teeth ached. In his lap rested the folded American flag, sharp corners pressed against his knees. His father had died with full honors, a decorated veteran of the Vietnam War, and Daniel wasn't about to dishonor him with tears. Soldiers didn't cry. Sons of soldiers didn't either. Beside him, Clara shifted, her lips moving in quiet prayer. She had their mother's softness, hands that had cared for their father in those long hospital months, a voice that soothed even when no one was listening. She brushed at her eyes with a tissue, not bothering to hide it. Clara always let people see her heart. In the back row leaned Eli, the youngest. He hadn't taken off his jacket, rain dripping from the cuffs onto the old carpet. He slouched against the pew, hands buried in his pockets, his eyes locked on the closed casket up front. He didn't bow his head during the prayer. He didn't flinch during the 21-gun salute. He just stared, jaw tight, like he was waiting for the box to open and their father to sit up and finally answer for something. The service dragged on. Mourners filed past with casseroles and condolences. Clara nodded politely, offering weak smiles as she juggled foil pans and Tupperware. Daniel shook hands with the pastor, speaking in that low, respectful voice he'd practiced since the diagnosis. Eli? He disappeared. No goodbye, no handshake, no casserole in hand. He slipped through the side door, up the narrow staircase of the old Hayes house and into the attic. The air was thick with dust and mothballs, the smell of a childhood packed away. He flicked on a bare bulb, its glow catching the edges of cardboard boxes and furniture draped in sheets. Against the far wall sat a cedar chest, scarred with scratches and a dent from God knows when. Eli crouched, gave the lock a tug. It resisted. He yanked harder, metal snapping loose with a screech. Inside lay stacks of envelopes, bound tight with yellowed twine. Dozens of them, maybe more. Each marked with a date, the ink faded but the handwriting neat, deliberate. His father's handwriting. Eli picked one up, rubbed the corner between his fingers. He recognized the slant of the letters immediately. The same handwriting that had signed report cards and checks, the same that had written him notes about mowing the lawn or being late for curfew. But here, on the front of the envelope, was a name he didn't recognize. Michael. Eli smirked, sliding the envelope into his jacket pocket. Guess you had secrets after all, old man. The attic creaked in the silence, as if the house itself had heard him. The Hayes kitchen still smelled of burnt coffee and lemon cleaner. Clara sat at the table, shoulders slumped, a half-empty mug cooling in front of her. She rubbed her temples like she was already carrying the weight of tomorrow. Daniel stood at the sink, sleeves rolled up, scrubbing casserole dishes until the water ran cloudy. He worked in silence, his jaw grinding, each clatter of porcelain into the drying rack like a hammer blow. The back door slammed. Eli strode in, dripping rain across the linoleum. His jacket clung to him, and something bulged from the inside pocket. He yanked it free and slapped it onto the table. An envelope. Look what your hero left behind, he said, eyes cutting to Daniel. Daniel turned, water dripping from his hands. What's that supposed to mean? Clara blinked, frowning at the envelope. Eli, where did you get that? Eli smirked. Up in the attic, cedar chest. He locked it up, but you know me, I don't care about locks. Daniel dried his hands on a dish towel and strode forward. You went through his things? That's private? Private? Eli tore open the envelope with one quick rip. You mean lies? Clara gasped, reaching for his wrist. Eli, don't. He shook her off and unfolded the letter, paper soft and yellow with age. His voice cut sharp through the room as he read. Michael, last night I dreamed of home, but it wasn't the house I saw. It was you. Clara's breath caught in her throat. She clutched the edge of the table as if it might steady her. Michael? The name didn't belong in their family. Daniel's face reddened, veins standing in his neck. That's not Dad. That's not who he was. Eli grinned, leaning across the table. Go on, Daniel. Tell me who Michael was. Tell me why Dad was writing love letters to another man. Clara's voice trembled. Stop it, both of you. But Daniel slammed his hand on the table, rattling the silverware. You're twisting it. You always twist everything. He was a soldier, a husband, a father. That's who he was. Eli jabbed the letter at him. Read the words, Daniel. That's him talking, not me. Maybe your perfect hero wasn't so perfect after all. Clara stood, her chair scraping loud against the floor. Enough. Her voice cracked through the room. Both brothers froze, glaring at each other, neither backing down. The clock ticked loud in the silence that followed. Clara pressed the letter flat on the table with shaking hands. Whatever this is, it changes things. Daniel crossed his arms, chest heaving. It changes nothing. Eli leaned back, smirk fading into something colder. Oh, it changes everything. The three of them stood in the kitchen, the letter between them like a live grenade. Nobody moved, nobody blinked, and in that silence, the only sound was the rain pounding the roof, steady and relentless, like a war drum that refused to stop. The next morning, the house felt colder than the rain outside. Clara spread the stack of letters across the dining table, each envelope lined up like evidence in a trial. She hadn't slept. Her hands shook as she reached for the next one. Daniel stood in the doorway, arms crossed, glaring at the pile. You shouldn't have opened them. Clara didn't look up. He wrote them. He wanted someone to read them. No, Daniel shot back. He wanted them buried. Eli sauntered in, coffee mug in hand. He looked smug, like a man who'd already won an argument. Buried or hidden? Big difference. Clara unfolded the second letter. Her voice trembled as she read aloud. The nights here are endless, Michael. The air stinks of smoke and blood. I can't close my eyes without hearing them scream. You're the only thing keeping me sane. I keep thinking about the way you laughed after the patrol, how it cut through the noise. She lowered the page. The silence stretched. Daniel's jaw tightened. Stop reading. No, Eli said, sliding into a chair. Keep going. Let's hear more about Dad's little secret. Daniel turned on him, eyes blazing. You think this is funny? You think tearing down the only good thing he ever gave us is some kind of game? Eli leaned forward, smirking. What good thing, Daniel? The cold shoulder? The silence at the dinner table? The lectures about discipline while he drank himself half to death? Yeah, real gift to his kids. Daniel's fist slammed the wall, the sound making Clara flinch. Shut your mouth. Eli raised his mug in mock salute. Truth hurts, doesn't it? Clara pressed the letter flat on the table, her voice barely above a whisper. He was hurting too. Both brothers looked at her. He wrote it down because he couldn't say it out loud, she said. All those years we thought he didn't feel anything. Maybe he just couldn't. Daniel shook his head, stepping back. You're both wrong. He was strong. He kept it in because that's what men did. That's what soldiers did. Eli smirked again, softer this time, almost sad. Or maybe he kept it in because he loved someone he wasn't supposed to love. The words hung in the air, heavy as smoke. Daniel grabbed his coat from the chair, his voice sharp and final. I won't listen to this. He stormed out the back door, the slam rattling the windows. Clara sat down, shoulders slumping, eyes still on the letters. Eli reached for another envelope, but she placed her hand over it. No more today, she whispered. For once, Eli didn't argue. He just leaned back, staring at the ceiling, a slow grin creeping across his face. You know what this means, don't you? Clara didn't answer. It means we've only read the beginning. The old grandfather clock chimed in the corner, steady and unforgiving. The letters waited on the table, patient, silent, daring them to keep going. Eli waited until Clara had gone upstairs for a nap. Then he slid the stack of letters closer, the twine slipping loose. He grinned at the weight of them. Secrets. Real ones. He pulled out another envelope and ripped it open. Clara's footsteps creaked above, the old house sighing with every board. Eli leaned back, kicked his feet onto a chair, and started reading aloud just for himself. March 14th, 1968. Michael, I don't know how much longer I can take this. We lost 2 more men last night. I can still hear it. The screaming, the gunfire, the trees splitting. If it weren't for you dragging me down behind that log, I'd be gone too. I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe so I don't go insane. Maybe because I need you in ways I can't say out loud. The words blurred for a second, and then the attic melted away. The jungle swallowed him whole. Rain pounded the leaves, thunder rolling through the canopy. 19-year-old Thomas Hayes, the father they thought they knew, hit the mud face first as gunfire shredded the air above him. Down! Michael's voice roared in his ear. Hands yanked him behind a fallen log, bullets chewing through bark. Hayes's chest heaved, ears ringing. His helmet was gone, mud smeared across his face. He gasped. I thought I was done. Michael pressed against him, shoulder to shoulder, breath ragged. Not while I'm here, you're not. For a moment the war fell silent. Just the two of them pressed together in the muck, alive because of each other. Hayes looked at him, words caught in his throat. Michael just nodded, eyes burning through the dark. Back in the dining room, Eli whispered the last line under his breath. Not while I'm here. He smirked, shaking his head. Jesus, Dad. The kitchen door banged open. Daniel strode in, coat dripping rain onto the floor. His eyes went straight to the letters spread across the table. You just can't help yourself, can you? Daniel growled. Eli leaned back, casual. You mean reading the truth? He held up the page. Here, Dad's jungle love story. Want me to read it to you? Daniel crossed the room in 3 long strides, snatching the letter from Eli's hand. He scanned the lines, face twisting, then crumpled the page in his fist. Eli laughed. Go ahead, crumple it, won't change what's written. You think this is funny? Daniel's voice rose, raw, shaking. You think dragging his name through the dirt is some kind of game? It's not dirt, Eli snapped back. It's his life, the one he never told us about because he knew you'd rather worship the soldier than see the man. Daniel shoved Eli's chair back with a sharp kick. Eli staggered but grinned through it, holding his arms wide. Go ahead, Danny. Hit me. Prove you're just like him. Violent, silent, and scared of the truth. Clara's voice sliced down the staircase. Stop it. Both brothers froze, caught like kids in the old days. Clara rushed into the kitchen, eyes darting between them, her face pale. She spotted the crumpled letter in Daniel's fist. Give it to me. Daniel didn't move. His hand shook. Paper crackling. Finally, he shoved it into her palm and stormed out the back door again, the screen slamming so hard the frame rattled. Clara smoothed the page, her hands trembling. She read the lines silently, lips moving. When she finished, she pressed it flat on the table, tears brimming. He was terrified, she whispered, and Michael was the only thing holding him together. Eli leaned forward, softer now. Guess we never really knew him, huh? The rain outside poured harder, as if the storm itself was listening. The morning after the storm, the Hayes house felt like a minefield. Every sound was too sharp. The tick of the clock, the slam of the fridge, even the creak of the floorboards. Clara moved quietly, stacking the letters into neat piles, as if order might calm the chaos. Eli came in barefoot, hair a mess, sipping straight from a carton of milk. He smirked at the sight of her fussing. You know you're just feeding his denial, right? He's never gonna admit what those letters mean. Clara shot him a look. And you're not helping. All you do is push him. Somebody has to. Eli set the milk down with a thud. Daniel's been polishing Dad's medals and polishing his memory his whole damn life. Meanwhile, the truth is rotting in these envelopes. The back door opened. Daniel stepped in, fresh from his morning run, sweat soaking his shirt. His eyes darted to the table, to the letters, to Eli's smirk. You still here? Daniel asked. Eli spread his arms. It's my house too, Daniel snorted. Not for long. You'll be gone the second it suits you. Same as always. Eli bristled. At least I didn't waste my life pretending I was Dad's perfect little soldier. That did it. Daniel lunged, fists clenched, but Clara jumped between them, palms out. Stop it, you're tearing each other apart. Her voice cracked, but neither man stepped back. Daniel's breath came hard and fast. Eli's grin was sharp, daring. Go on, Eli taunted. Hit me. Maybe then you'll finally admit what scares you. Dad loved somebody else, not Mom, not us, somebody else. Daniel's fist shook at his sides, his voice low and dangerous. Say it again. Eli leaned in, his face inches away. Dad loved a man. The silence that followed was unbearable. Daniel's knuckles whitened, his whole body trembling like he might break. But then slowly, he stepped back. His voice came cold and flat. You don't know what love meant to him. He turned, grabbed his keys and stormed out, tires screaming on the gravel as his truck tore down the road. Clara sagged into a chair, burying her face in her hands. I can't do this, she whispered. Not without answers. Eli slid into the chair across from her. He tapped the pile of letters with one finger. Then we keep reading. Every damn one. Clara lifted her head, eyes red, voice soft but firm. Not like this, not with anger. We owe him more than that. Eli leaned back, frustrated. What we owe is the truth. The letters sat between them, waiting, daring them to choose. Keep tearing at each other, or face what their father really left behind. The jungle never slept. Thomas Hayes gripped his rifle, mud sucking at his boots as the patrol crept single file through dripping foliage. Mosquitoes whined in his ears, sweat poured down his back, and every step felt like it might be the one that set off hell. Ahead of him, Michael raised a hand. Stop. The squad froze. Thomas swallowed hard, eyes darting through the trees. Moonlight broke in shards through the canopy, throwing shadows everywhere. He strained to hear over his own heartbeat. Nothing but the buzz of insects, the croak of frogs. Then a crack, a branch snapped. Contact, someone shouted. Gunfire exploded from the trees. Tracers lit up the night like fireworks. Thomas dove for cover, mud splashing his face. Screams ripped through the darkness. Hayes! Michael's voice cut through the chaos. Thomas looked up, disoriented. Michael was crouched behind a log, firing back into the black. He jerked his head. Move! Thomas scrambled toward him, bullets whipping past. He slid into the mud beside Michael, gasping. Jesus Christ! Keep your head down! Michael snapped, reloading. The firefight roared around them, deafening. Men shouted. The ground shook with grenades. The air reeked of smoke and blood. Thomas pressed himself against Michael's shoulder, terrified. Through the madness, Michael's hand found his arm. Just a touch, grounding him. Not for long, just enough to say, "You're still here." Thomas steadied his rifle, breathing hard. He aimed into the tree line and fired. Minutes blurred into forever, and then silence. The jungle swallowed the noise again, leaving only moans of the wounded. Thomas's hands shook as he lowered his weapon. Michael patted his chest, quick, checking him. "You hit?" No, I'm fine." Michael's eyes held his, steady even in the moonlight. "You're not fine. None of us are. But you're alive. That's what matters." Thomas's throat tightened. He wanted to say something, anything, but his voice caught. Instead, he nodded, mud streaking his face. Michael gave a faint grin. "Good. Now get up. We've got work to do." The jungle faded. Back in the Hayes dining room, Clara lowered the letter she had just read aloud. Her voice still trembled, the words echoing in the silence. Daniel had returned, standing in the doorway with his arms crossed. His face was pale, jaw set tight. "He didn't write that to us," Daniel said flatly. "He wrote it to him." Eli leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes glittering. "Exactly. He trusted Michael with his fear, his pain, his life, not you, not me, him." Daniel's fists clenched. "You don't understand. That was war. They depended on each other. It doesn't mean—" "It means everything," Eli cut in. "He loved him. In the middle of hell, he found the one person who made it bearable." Clara pressed the letter flat on the table, her eyes wet. Maybe that's why he was so distant when he came home. Maybe he left the part of himself in that jungle, with Michael. Daniel's face twisted, torn between rage and grief. He turned and walked out again, silent this time. The letters lay waiting, their edges worn, their secrets alive. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving the Hayes house wrapped in a damp stillness. Clara busied herself in the attic, sorting through boxes of old uniforms and keepsakes. She told herself it was just cleaning, but really, she was searching. Her hands brushed past medals, ribbons, and a folded American flag. Then at the bottom of a shoebox, under yellowed newspapers, she found it, a photograph. The edges were curled, the surface cracked. It showed two young soldiers in jungle fatigues, muddy, exhausted, but alive. Thomas Hayes on the right, staring straight into the camera, jaw set, eyes burning with something she didn't recognize. And beside him, Michael, arms slung over Thomas's shoulders, smiling like the war hadn't touched him. Clara froze, breath catching. The way Michael leaned in, the way Thomas leaned back but didn't pull away, it was there. Intimate, unspoken, real. She carried it downstairs, her hands shaking. Eli was sprawled on the couch, half asleep, when she dropped the photo onto his chest. His eyes snapped open. He picked it up, studied it, and whistled low. Well, looks like our dad had a whole other life." Clara hugged her arms around herself. "It's proof." "Proof of what?" Daniel's voice cut from the doorway. They both turned. He stood there, pale and stiff, eyes locked on the photograph. Eli held it up like evidence. "Proof he loved Michael. Look at it. You can't deny it anymore." Daniel stepped forward slowly, took the photo from Eli, and stared at it. His throat worked, jaw tight. "They were brothers in arms," he muttered. "That's all." "No," Clara said softly. "It's more. You see it too, don't you?" Daniel shook his head, but his eyes betrayed him. He couldn't stop staring at the way Michael leaned in, the way Thomas let him. Eli leaned forward, voice sharp. "You spent your whole life worshipping Dad's silence, but this is what he couldn't say. It's right here." Daniel's hands trembled around the photo. For a second, Clara thought he might tear it in two, but instead, he shoved it into his pocket and turned for the door. "Where are you going?" Clara asked. Daniel didn't look back. To find out who the hell Michael was. The screen door slammed. Tires spun on gravel. Silence fell again. Eli leaned back, a grin spreading across his face. "Well, that ought to be interesting." Clara sank into a chair, clutching the table edge. The photograph burned in her mind, refusing to let go. For the first time she realized, the letters weren't the only story. There were people out there who remembered, people who could fill in the gaps. And Daniel, angry, stubborn Daniel, was about to dig them up. Daniel drove for hours, his hands clamped tight on the wheel. The photograph burned against his thigh in his pocket, every bump in the road pressing it deeper into his skin. He didn't tell Clara or Eli where he was going. He just followed instinct. The old Veterans Hall, a squat brick building on the edge of town where men still gathered to drink weak coffee and argue about wars long past. Inside, the air smelled of tobacco and dust. Faded flags lined the walls. A few gray-haired men sat at a round table, their voices low. They glanced up as Daniel entered, his presence pulling the silence taut. "Thomas Hayes," Daniel said without preamble. "My father. You served with him. Anyone remember?" The men exchanged looks. One of them, wiry with a cane propped at his side, squinted. "Hayes, yeah, quiet kid, sharp shooter, kept to himself mostly." Daniel pulled the photograph from his pocket and slapped it on the table. "What about him, Michael? Who was he?" The men leaned in. Silence again, thicker this time. Finally, the man with the cane spoke. His voice was rough, careful. "Michael Donnelly, from Ohio. Tough as they came. Saved a lot of lives out there." Daniel's throat tightened. Did he make it back?" The man shook his head slowly. "Not from Nam. Ambush, late '68, didn't walk out." Daniel stared at the photograph, his chest heavy, his father's arm linked with a ghost. Another veteran cleared his throat. "Hayes took it hard. Real hard. Wouldn't talk about it. Just shut down. Different man after that." Daniel felt the room pressing in on him. He gathered the photo, shoved it back into his pocket, and turned to leave. The man with the cane called after him. "Whatever you're looking for, son, you won't find it in records or medals. That war took pieces from all of us. Hayes, it took something bigger." Daniel didn't answer. He pushed out the door into the fading daylight, his jaw clenched. Back at the Hayes house, Eli was sprawled at the kitchen table, scribbling notes from the letters like he was assembling a case. Clara sat across from him, hands folded, eyes distant. The sound of Daniel's truck rumbling up the drive snapped them both alert. The door opened and Daniel stepped in. "Well?" Eli demanded. Daniel dropped into a chair, tossed the photograph on the table. "Michael's dead. Killed in Nam. Dad never got over it." Clara's hand flew to her mouth. Eli's smirk faltered, but he forced it back. "So? That's your proof right there. Dad loved him. He lost him. That's why he shut down." Daniel slammed a fist on the table. "You don't know what he felt. None of us do. You want to twist his memory into something dirty just because you hate who he was." "It's not dirty," Eli shot back. "It's the truth, and you're too damn scared to face it." The photograph lay between them, a silent witness. Clara reached for it, her voice breaking. Please stop. Can't you see? This is killing us." The house fell quiet again, but the silence wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence before something breaks for good. The night air in Vietnam felt heavier than water. It pressed on Thomas's lungs, damp and suffocating as the squad crept through the jungle. Michael was just ahead of him, the glow of his cigarette briefly lighting his grin before he pinched it out. "Stay sharp, Hayes. Feels wrong tonight." Thomas nodded, rifle tight in his hands. The jungle hummed with cicadas. Every branch looked like a rifle barrel, every shadow a trap. Then the world erupted. Gunfire sliced from the tree line, ripping through the night. The squad scattered, men shouting. Grenades thudded, explosions tearing earth apart. Thomas dove behind a log, ears ringing. "Move! Flank right!" Michael's voice cut through the chaos. He was already charging, fearless, firing into the dark. Thomas scrambled after him. "Michael!" But then, a flash, a scream. Thomas hit the ground hard. When his vision cleared, Michael was down, sprawled in the mud, blood soaking his chest. His rifle lay just out of reach. "No!" Thomas crawled to him, dragging him back behind cover, bullets sparking all around. Stay with me, damn it!" Michael's eyes fluttered, breath ragged. He managed a faint, crooked smile. Guess it was wrong tonight, huh? Shut up, Thomas growled, pressing a hand to the wound, trying to hold the blood in. You're not dying here, you hear me? Michael's hand found his wrist, weak but firm. Tommy, his voice was barely a whisper. You are the best thing in this hellhole. Don't let it kill you too. Thomas's throat burned. He wanted to say it back, everything he'd never said. But before the words came, Michael's grip loosened. His eyes glazed, staring into the black sky. Michael! Thomas shook him, panic clawing his chest. But the jungle swallowed the name whole. Something broke in Thomas that night, deeper than bone. He fired until his rifle clicked empty, until the squad pulled him away, until there was nothing left but smoke and silence. The jungle faded. Clara's hands trembled as she lowered the last letter. Her voice was hoarse, her eyes wet. That was the night. Daniel sat rigid, fists clenched on his knees, staring at the floor. Eli leaned back, eyes red but blazing. He loved him, Eli whispered. God, he loved him, and he lost him. That's why he came home empty. Daniel's voice broke. He was my father, and I never knew him at all. Clara reached across the table, laying her hand over his. For the first time in days, Daniel didn't pull away. The silence that followed wasn't anger this time. It was grief, heavy, shared, undeniable. The letters lay scattered, the truth finally laid bare. The morning sun spilled across the Hayes kitchen, golden and soft. For the first time since the funeral, the three siblings sat together without shouting. The letters lay in a neat stack, bound by a frayed ribbon Clara had found in her sewing kit. No one touched them. Daniel stared at his coffee, steam rising between his hands. His face looked older, the weight of his father's silence finally pressing its full cost. He never told us, he said quietly. All those years, and he never breathed a word. Because he was scared, Clara replied. Her voice was gentle, almost resigned. Scared of what we'd think. Scared of what the world would do if it knew. Eli leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes raw but steady. He shouldn't have been scared. He survived a war for God's sake. He deserved to love who he loved. Daniel met his brother's gaze. The old anger was there but softer now, dulled by grief. And what do we do with it, huh? How do we live with knowing Dad was different? Clara reached for the letters, her hand resting on the ribbon. We carry it like he carried Michael. We keep the truth alive. Daniel looked away, jaw tight, but he didn't argue. Eli broke the silence with a half smile, bitter but warm. Maybe this is our inheritance, not medals or flags, just knowing the man beneath the uniform. The three of them sat there, the morning stretching long. Finally, Clara stood. She gathered the letters, cradling them as if they were fragile glass. I'll keep them safe, she said. For us, for when we're ready to read them again. Daniel rose, sliding his chair back. He took one long look at the photo pinned to the fridge. Thomas and Michael, young and alive, forever caught in a moment of joy, and then he nodded. Just once. Eli followed his gaze. He loved him. That's all that matters. No one disagreed. Outside, the wind stirred the trees, carrying with it the faintest echo of the jungle. The Hayes family stepped into the day, each bearing a different piece of the truth, each bound now by something stronger than silence. For the first time in years, they carried it together. Thanks for listening. Hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe.